Oh yeah,
Go.
Grimes' baby. Oh my god.
The Grimes Musk baby. There's no way to phrase it in a good light with a Grimes Musk. I don't know. It just sounds like such a dirty thing. The Grime Musk baby.
And it's not like you can refer to it by by its name because it's like, what was it? Oh fuck, what was it? It was like
A
X
A
A
X.
E A12 or something like that.
But it's not even like AE. It's like some other weird symbol. Where it's
Yeah,
like, we get it.
it's
You
like
like
yeah,
space and computers.
and probably do a ton of like DMT or something. We get
Yeah.
it. You watch the Joe Rogan podcast.
What a timeline we live in where I thought it was going to be a short-lived bit when Grimes and Elon Musk announced a relationship. Here we are with a baby. Not to mention that Elon Musk is also working on shooting the first in-space movie with Tom Cruise, because right now that's what we need to focus all of our efforts on, is to get Tom Cruise into space right now, get him zero grav, get him jumping out of spaceships. We need this film for America and for people.
It'll cure COVID-19 once it's finished. Tom Cruise will. I bet Tom Cruise will be playing Elon Musk. I would
Yeah.
not be if that was what this was, a vanity project. No, I'll see. I don't follow him on Twitter because I'm not an idiot, but I'll see his tweets when people retweet them, like the most shocking or like just ridiculous ones.
Hold on,
And
we talking Tom Cruise or Elon
oh
Musk
no,
right
Elon
now?
Musk. Elon Musk.
Because
I
it really
don't
could,
think. I
could
mean,
go
oh,
one
we
of
could.
those
It could
ways.
literally be either one of them. Yeah. Oh my God, Elon. He talks like he tweets like. I mean, he tweets like somebody who's on a mix of substances. It's like Kanye's worst tweets, but even worse. With the whole sort of like God complex like idea. It's like, dude, just because you're a billionaire does not mean that you're like, the Messiah.
You made PayPal. You made PayPal. Good for you. And now you're shooting stuff into space, and you're making your Tom Cruise space movie.
You're making Tesla go bankrupt with every tweet.
Yeah, because why focus on making electric cars when Tom Cruise can have a space movie?
I've seen some like hot takes from people in the music sphere about Grimes because I guess Grimes' big thing was that her first few albums were released like independently, like they were like not on any major labels or anything. I think she's on 4AD now, which is also still like an independent label. A lot of people were giving her a lot of shit because she's got the same sort of thing as like Elon, where she tweets like she's some sort of like omnipresent, like all-knowing entity and not like a human being. And so it's very easy to like it's
Well, I
very
think
easy to just be like, what the fuck are you talking about? But like a lot of people were like trashing her because they were saying like you've lost the kind of like all cred that you pretend like you have in terms of like an artist and like an independent like musician and looking out for like, the little guys of the world.
Elon Musk doesn't support his workers unionizing, so Grimes can't say.
He's like one step away from like Dr. Evil levels of like Jeff Bezos. And I feel like the only reason why like tech bros like Elon Musk is because he like openly like talks about doing like drugs. But like that doesn't it doesn't make you like a forgivable person. It doesn't make you a good human being.
All right, we got enough roast on the Musk there. Welcome to Strange Conversations where rock and roll isn't Welcome to Strange Conversations where rock and roll isn't dead. It's just finding its persona.
That's what we're seeing on this week's album.
Car Seat Headrest with Making a Door Less Open is the album we're talking about this week. It was released on May 1st of 2020 on Matador Records, which we could talk for days about the quality of content on Matador Records.
I don't even want to get down that rabbit hole because Matador Records past and present, and I'm sure future, is just such a solid label with both a diverse but also just solid and related cast of artists that cover a lot of ground in the indie rock sphere, but also at the same time, I think they have like they sort of do have an identity. I think like they lean in the slacker rock kind of influence direction. I think that'd be safe to say.
You know, we're looking at bands like Pavement, kind of the kings of slacker rock, Guided by Voices, the grandfathers of are they or I actually don't even know the timeline. Is Guided by Voices
Yeah,
before
yeah.
Pavement?
Their first few albums were before Pavement, but they really didn't get big until like B1000, which was 94. But I
Okay.
think their first album was like 86 or 87,
Oh
so just a
wow.
little before Pavement.
Tango, Liz Phair is Matador. You know, so many just emperors of indie rock music are on this label. I can hands down say it's my favorite label. I think we've mentioned A Band or Matador Records at least once an episode up to this point.
Yeah, that is a safe bet. To bring it into contemporary music and things that we've I feel like that relates to a lot of the artists that we've talked about in previous podcasts. You have artists like Snail Mail. You have artists like, I mean, like Rest in Peace, but Jay Retard was on Matador, and you have
Lucy Dacus is
Lucy
on Matador.
Dacus, exactly. Yeah. So a really solid slew, and of course, Car Seat Headrest, a really solid slew of contemporary artists on Matador. And I feel like they're still doing a really, really good job of signing exciting artists that aren't always like obvious hot button artists. I feel like they do a good job of like molding artists into exciting artists. It seems, at least to me, like very rarely do you hear about artists switching over to Matador after they've already gotten like a lot of traction or like hype from other, you know, albums or labels. It seems like they do a good job of like finding little gems among sort of lesser known artists.
For sure. We could, like I said, we could really go on and on this topic. So I might hit the brakes on it before
Yeah.
we really start to dive in. Because Matador Records, if you don't know anything about them, check them out. There's for sure a band on Matador for you.
Yeah.
And before we dived into making a door less open, I wanted to do a little behind the music with Car Seat Headrest on Strange Conversations. Because Car Seat Headrest is one of my favorite artists. It's an ever rotating top 5 artists I have, but Car Seat has cemented themselves in my top artists ever since 2016 when Teens of Denial came out. It was actually our friend Rob who one day played the song Drunk Drivers, Killer Whales in our room because we were roommates at school at the time. I just was like, whoa, what is this, Rob? Like, this is a great song. He's like, I've just like been hearing it on the Sirius XM station I listen to a lot. It was stuck in my head and I wanted to hear it again. And it was Car Seat Headrest. And before that, I'd heard the name a lot and kind of always put them off just because I didn't like the name, which I know isn't a great reason to dive into an artist, but something about the name Car Seat Headrest didn't grab me, and I just never really listened to them, but I've since really come around to even to like the name and the band as a whole. Rob, who is not a Car Seat Headrest fan, I think that was the only time Rob has ever queued up a Car Seat Headrest song, and it was the one time that made me a huge Car Seat Headrest fan. And then I got into listening to Teens of Denial, and then from there Teens of Style. And Car Seat Headrest is an artist that has just such a deep back catalog. It started right after Will Toledo graduated high school. He started making music under the name Car Seat Headrest. Previously, he was under the name Nervous Young Man, but didn't gain much traction, so kind of decided to take a different route, the way he was making music and sort of the name that he released it under, and then began the Car Seat Headrest project because he was recording songs in the back seat of his car, hence the name Car Seat Headrest. Released 5 albums under the title 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, each one a number. Just from there, really grew as an artist. It's such an amazing project to walk your way through from start to finish, from the first Bandcamp album to this most recent album, and then looking at the original recording of Twin Fantasy. I think maybe it was 2013, 2014. I don't know. I'm not 100%
Oh yeah,
on
I
that
think
date.
2013.
in 2018, yeah, we have that remake of Twin Fantasy, which is just such a masterpiece. Car Seat Headrest is an artist I've loved so much because I don't think I've had many musicians or artists who I've emotionally resonated with so much. Like a lot of bands who I like who are older, I feel like there's kind of a generational difference in kind of the way I can really enjoy the music. Ty Segall, who's another contemporary artist who I really love and is definitely in that top 5 for me, doesn't have, I think sort of isn't a very emotionally rich artist. That's not to say Ty isn't a great artist and doesn't release emotional songs. I wouldn't label emotionality kind of as an aspect Ty's music as much as Car Seat Headrest is just an artist who I don't know any other way to describe it, but they've really just resonated with me and captured so many emotions that I've felt. I just absolutely love them, and there are some moments in my life where it'll be the only artist I listen to over and over. I think the past 2 years they've been in my top artists on Spotify ever since I found out about them. Yeah, that's I guess kind of the bass notes on Car Seat Headrest and
the liner notes.
Yeah,
the liner notes on Car Seat.
The liner notes. Sorry. Episode we've been tracking these singles along the way, so sure I've expressed my love for them, but I wanted to paint a little picture of maybe why I like them and of kind of what Car Seat Headrest is. And I think this album too is really an interesting I wouldn't say culmination because this isn't the end of Car Seat Headrest. I think this is kind of the middle of Car Seat Headrest is what this album shows, but it's really an interesting progression all the way through. And I will stop talking for a second so Dylan, you can get a word in here because
I like hearing about how I actually never knew that Rob was the one who first showed you Car Seat Headrest. I think that's really funny because I feel like every time Rob talks about Car Seat Headrest, it's disparaging, comedically disparaging, but disparaging nonetheless, which is like I think needed. You always need somebody to like keep like fanboydom in check, and I think that's the best part about talking music about people who have overlapping but not completely similar tastes, is that everyone can check everyone else's like fandom and make sure that like I don't know, you think about what you love and why you love it. And I do love Car Seat Headrest. I discovered them at the same album right around the same time. As much as I harp on sort of Spotify as the corporate megalomaniacal overlords of the music world, I do have to thank them for really consistently and in a way that is really crazy impactful on my music tastes, giving me recommendations all throughout freshman and sophomore year, all throughout college basically, but really through freshman and sophomore year, the music recommendations I got through like the Discover Weekly really consistently had me discovering new and old artists that just continue to form the bulk of what I listen to. And Car Seat Headrest was one of those artists. I think it was I want to say it was the spring of sophomore year, early spring. I heard Fill in the Blank on a Discover Weekly, and I remember immediately just being like, "Yep, yeah, this is an artist." I'm immediately going in. I listened to that album, and I think I actually bought that album on vinyl at Area Music, which was the record store in our little college town that closed
No
down.
way.
Yeah.
No way you got that there.
Yeah. I do actually remember. I remember listening to that album, and I remember being blown away that they had it at that record store. And
I like can't believe that because I feel like wow, because I feel like if I saw that there, I definitely would have got that. That's so surprising.
I know. I got the copy that Austin would have gotten if probably that same day went in and probably.
It's funny we weren't even friends at that time. No, I think it's so interesting.
We didn't know each other yet, but. It's really crazy how artists like Car Seat Headrest, Ty Segall, the OCs, those 3 artists, and then a lot of others, Parquet Courts, and also a lot of older artists. Really, those 4 contemporary musicians, like they were like my north light. Like they guided me through a really weird and kind of strange transition between freshman and sophomore year, like a weird identity crisis and like kind of shedding everything that I had been throughout high school, and like when I rode and just quitting rowing and really looking at myself like in the mirror and not being happy with like who kind of rowing turned me into. And music was like what saved me. And like I got involved in like our college radio station and like started playing music, and through those two things like I eventually met Austin and like all the people that I call my best friends now. Car Seat Headrest is definitely like a really, really important just like focal point in kind of the personal journey of how like I became me through the music that I fell in love with at a really weird point in my life that I feel like everyone goes through in a different way in college. And so yeah, like Car Seat Headrest is super meaningful to me. This album is Car Seat Headrest going through like a bit of that sort of that kind of that focal point of like figuring out maybe a new identity or a new way forward. And I totally agree. Like it's an album of change for Car Seat Headrest, and I think that there are pros and cons to that change. I'm really excited to talk about it.
I think this is the album I have been most anticipating to talk about on the show since we've started it. I've enjoyed a lot of the albums we've talked about, but this is the one that, since we started the show, we've been following these singles, and I've been waiting to do this episode. So I'm really excited to dive into this album.
Yeah, Can't Cool Me Down was episode 1, right? That came out, or
I
was it
think so.
episode 2?
I don't know if it was we have episode 0 out there somewhere.
That's true. That's
where
true.
we talk about the Automatic album. So I don't know if it was that episode or if it was the Fungus episode. I don't remember which one that came out in. But yeah, it was that was the first single. That single did get me excited for this album. I will say. I remember seeing it live. Just whenever a new single comes out from an artist, I just get really excited. New music. It's just sometimes after I sit with the single, I get less excited. It's still just like so exciting when that first single drops, and I think Can't Cool Me Down did get me promptly hyped for this album.
That one has grown on me more than any of the other songs. Martin has actually too, but Can't Cool Me Down, since the album has come out, each time I listen through the album, I like Can't Cool Me Down like more and more, to the point where now like I do like that album. But I remember not liking that song when it first came out. I think because it was so much different than what I was expecting, but it's grown on me, especially with listening to the album and actually finding that some of the songs that maybe fit most into old Car Seat Headrest sound, I like less than the songs that diverge from old Car Seat Headrest sound more, which I think has been really interesting for me, like finding that the songs I don't like are the songs that sound more like what maybe I was expecting from a Car Seat Headrest song, and the songs that have really been more different and changed more of his sound, to me, I think have stood out more, and I've enjoyed more. Strange conversations.
We're only 4 days into this album at the time that we're recording this, and my experience with it has been so wild because when I first listened to the digital release of the album, I wasn't hooked right away. I will say it was a listen that maybe it was because it was a very passive listen and I was kind of getting ready for the day, and I wasn't really able to listen with a keen ear. It didn't quite hook me right away, and I kept listening to it, and I did enjoy the album. I liked it, but then a couple days later, the vinyl finally came in the mail, and it was yesterday actually when we were originally going to record this episode. And then once I played the vinyl, it was a different version of the album. Tracks were ordered differently, and there were some separate mixes of the songs, and I had no idea that was going to happen, and it really shifted my overall experience with Making a Door Less Open, this album. I felt like the vinyl was a much more Car Seat Headrest experience, and then the vinyl also kind of made me appreciate the digital a bit more, and just kind of seeing this big picture, I guess, that they were seeing. I don't know, it's just a very interesting way to release an album that I've never experienced before, and I think I like it. I guess I think it's cool. It kind of gives you an incentive to buy the vinyl, I guess, but it definitely, I think, changed kind of my overall perception of the album.
I found that I would say, a very similar listening experience. I didn't get the record on vinyl, but Austin was nice enough to share the vinyl, the digital download vinyl versions with me. And listening to them, I was struck with, I think the vinyl version of the album works better, like as an album, I think, like, I don't know, something about the flow of songs just works slightly better, and the
Definitely.
it's slightly less like electronic and slightly more roughly produced. It's not like a lo-fi album by any means, but the vinyl version does have
That car
sort
seat
of,
headrest.
yeah,
Yeah.
like more of a rock sound than the heavier electronic elements. Although I will say that there were some versions of some of the songs that I actually did like the electronic versions better, I think, and I think it was just an interesting experience because,
What songs in particular are you
well,
talking?
I really didn't like the first deadlines on the digital, the hostile deadlines. But I really like the thoughtful deadlines on the digital album, which is like a much, much more electronic, almost like sort of LCD Sound System sounding song. Like it has like a dancey beat and a sort of like a rhythmic, just sort of very repetitive, propulsive beat, and a lot of like heavy synths and like textures. And it's very electronic. But then the way that they do deadlines on the vinyl is it's just one song and it's
It's a
sort of,
different song
yeah,
almost
it's
completely.
almost a completely different song. But I really like the vinyl version of this song. And to me, it's just totally different than the two versions that are on the digital track list. One being really weak and one being really strong on the digital track. And then on the vinyl being totally different, but also being a really strong song.
Yeah, it's so wild. For those who can't see this in front of them, it's how the track listing works on the digital is Deadlines is split into two tracks. There's first Deadlines Hostile, and then later in the album Deadlines Thoughtful. And then on the vinyl version, Deadlines is just one single song that has elements of those two split songs, different lyrics completely, but I found moments when I was listening to the vinyl, I was singing those parts I could hear over the vinyl version, that kind of like, oh, compassion isn't, I don't know, it's got that repetitive line you're talking about, but
Yeah.
you can kind of sing that over the vinyl version, which is, it's cool, it's interesting, it's something that you really can't do with a lot of albums. And I agree as well that Thoughtful is definitely the Deadlines I liked more on the digital. Hostile, I think the second half of the song is really awesome, but I think the first half is kind of boring. But after the first chorus, listen to it again and just there's like a little synth part that kind of comes in on the second verse that really picks up the song, and I think makes it a little bit more worth the listen. I guess, because I totally feel you. At first I wasn't into that track. I remember re-listening to it today, and on the second half of the song I was like, I don't remember this part really before, but really being into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think listening to the vinyl version of the song, the vinyl version is more similar to the Hostel version, but I think the vinyl version for me does what like the Hostel version is trying to do, like just a little better. Like it has that sort of like halfway point where it switches to like the distorted guitar and like a more aggressive, like heavier sound. And for some reason, I guess it was because the vinyl version of that song, maybe, yeah, maybe the beginning just didn't sort of bore me as much as it did on the digital version. Yeah, I really like the thoughtful version. I really thought that some of the changes to some of the songs from the digital or from the vinyl to the digital or whichever way you want to, I don't know. I think to me, I'm vinyl centric, and I guess in a weird way, I consider like the vinyl version like the real version if I want to be like a nerd about it. But I think that some of the changes between the songs really do not do the digital Spotify, Apple release any favors. I think especially Him, which on the vinyl is just like a
So cool.
straightforward like interlude that is pretty and like has a nice like just sung sort of hymn like chorus and
And a
is
really
very simple.
I think
Yeah.
it's a great build in the middle of the album too.
Yeah.
Like we've been talking about this album flow that the vinyl has over the digital. Him just is such a great interlude where it builds this sort of tension in the middle of the album. Right after it's right on the start of side B too. It's right when you flip it over. You just get this crazy haunting organ and chant, and it's a great way to start off the side side, and followed by that a totally different version of Deadlines, which again just totally caught me off guard. And then yeah, going to kind of the him remix, which is kind of cool on the album, but I think after really hearing the vinyl version, I don't like the him remix as much. There's like, I
Yeah.
don't know, there's kind of a cool guitar solo in it at one point, but I don't know, the vinyl version I guess has sort of tainted that remix for me a little bit, where I'm not super into, I guess, the more electronic vibes that come out in a moment like that, I guess.
Yeah, the weird sort of glitchy, I guess more overtly sort of EDM-y electronic tones. I really don't like, I really don't get, and it's really not in my taste like wheelhouse. So I really, on songs like Famous and on like the Him remix, and on I think some parts of Weightlifters, like there are just like some really overtly sort of EDM-y, like drop the bass kind of synthy textures that to me just they come off as kind of tacky and
I
like
was I was gonna
yeah.
say Weightlifters, I actually thought was the best balance of Car Seat Headrest with the EDM. I actually really like Weightlifters, and
I
I don't know,
liked it at first. I really liked my first listen of it, but then I don't know what happened. But like I listened to it a few more times, and each time I listened to it, it just soured a little more on me.
I could understand that, but I don't know. It's just a song I think lyrically I kind of vibe with too. That chorus of
That's
like,
true. Yeah.
I should start lifting weight. It's I don't know. It's got some Talking Heads moments in this album, and I think Weightlifters at sometimes had that moment to me.
Yeah, I do see that. I do think that like and also like the scratchy sort of like really sort of like funky scratchy pick guitar sound that kind of crops like that creeps into Weightlifters, and also sort of into Can't Cool Me Down a little bit. I think that also brings a bit of that like Talking Heads sort of vibe, the real scratchy like funky dancey guitar. And I like it, but I guess the album to me trades a little bit of the really dense and like interwoven guitar parts that I really fell in love with on like albums like Teens of Style and Teens of Denial for very simple, like very simple guitar parts for the most part. It either is a very flashy, loud solo, which isn't really like I'm not super into that in general, or it's mostly just rhythm stuff. It's either like sort of chuggy rhythm power chords, or it's like kind of a scratchy, funky little like rhythmic, dancey kind of electric guitar sound. There's not a lot of the kind of like just interwoven, dense kind of like elaborate multiple layers of guitar, I think Car Seat Headrest of old had. And I guess they're trading some of those out for synth layers and for different things going on with other instruments. And sometimes I think that pays off really well, and I really like it. I think particularly on I mean, I don't want to talk about There Must Be More Than Blood quite yet, but I do want
Yeah.
to say I think it works there. I think it works on Life Worth Missing really well. I think it works on Deadline, on the thoughtful version, and I think it works on the vinyl version. I just don't particularly think it always works for the best. I particularly think the guitar playing on Hollywood is just Weezer level bad. Like it sounds like a song that was written to be in like a garage, like a Guitar Hero or Garage Band's like game. Like it's a really dull kind of song, like, and it really hurt me because it's like I really do think that like Car Seat Headrest writes just like very clever, very amazing, very well written rock songs, and Hollywood just has like it has the stink of like a Weezer song to it, like a really just like trying to be clever but coming off very 13-year-old-y.
I will admit I do find myself enjoying Hollywood at times. The digital version actually more than the vinyl version. I kind of like Andrew the drummer's yelling in that first chorus. I think on the vinyl version, I think listening to the song it feels a lot more hollow without it and a lot more dull. I totally agree that I think it is such a cheesy Weezer-esque song, but I don't hate it as much as a lot of fans have. I will say I'll give the digital version a more of a nod than the vinyl version, just because I think the Andrew yelling verse has potential. It's maybe not utilized in the best way, and that's because I read a lot more because I actually didn't really know what Car Seat Headrest, what Will Toledo and what the band had really been saying about the album up until the release. So I did some reading and found that one thing Will Toledo wanted to do with this album that was different from others is he said he found himself listening to more songs rather than albums. So he wanted to make an album that had a lot of songs that had kind of a unique energy to them. And he would be happy if he made something that kind of had songs with different energy. And I think he did, I guess, exactly that. A lot of these songs do have kind of it really, the digital version especially, I don't think flows quite as well as the vinyl version. After listening to it, it feels very choppy, and it's not as much of an album as Car Seat Headrest has done in the past. And I think we mentioned that we were interested to see how these singles sounded in context with an album, but it's not the same context album that we always get from Car Seat, because it's usually like Twin Fantasy. When you listen to that top to bottom, it feels like such a journey and such an experience. And this is, I just don't really find myself feeling the need to put this on top to bottom as much as I just kind of want to hop around to certain moments in it. And I think that's the biggest change in sound, is it's really not an album as much as it is a lot of moments that I enjoy.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it has some really high peaks, and then it has just some very it has moments that really pull me out. And I think that what interests me the most is that the moments that pull me out are moments that, like, I think are mostly rooted in sort of a more straightforward rock sound. Like all the songs that are trying something new, that are adding more heavy-handed electronic elements, for the most part, are the songs that I like the most, and are the songs that excite me the most and make me want to hear where Car Seat Headrest goes with the sound further. But the songs like Hollywood, and especially like What's With You Lately, songs that are, one being just like a straightforward, just like electric guitar driven, kind of riff driven rock song, and the other being a little acoustic singer-songwriter sung interlude, they just really like pull me out of the flow on both versions, on the digital sequencing and on the vinyl. It's like both are very disruptive to a kind of a mood of the album.
What's With You Lately is a really interesting interlude. It's the guitar player. It's the guitar player Ethan who sings on that, and it's weird.
He has an amazing voice, and like he is an amazing musician, and I love his guitar work like throughout Car Seat Headrest project. But I literally, no joke, the first time I listened to this album and that song came on, I actually thought that for some reason the album was over and that it had randomly put on Shallow by Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. I was like, this sounds like that, like somber, like I'm a dead cowboy, like sad Oscar bait trash.
I didn't think this podcast was gonna mention
twice. That's twice.
That Bradley Cooper movie, Born a Star or whatever.
Born a Star. Yeah, it was like I was like, what? Did the album just end? Because it's such a shift from Deadline's The Thoughts version, the really electronic version, to this just like really somber little like minute and a half acoustic guitar kind of diddly, and then right back into the electronic sort of sound with Life Worth Missing.
I think it's like, very much intentionally placed in that spot.
Yeah,
in the sense where it does kind of talk about someone sitting in your place looking like you and not being you, where maybe it's commenting kind of on this change of persona. And I don't know, maybe I'm getting too meta with it, trying to but I don't know. I'm interested. This was an album I would be so curious to see live, because we have this whole new persona that Will is dressing up as. Just a really interesting mix of songs. And would we see the hymn remix, or would we see like the full like orchestra, like organ kind of version? And what Deadlines would you hear? Would you hear all three of them?
Deadlines medley.
Yeah, there's just a lot to this album and the different ways to listen to it that I think are pretty unique. And I think we can talk about it now. I think we've really covered all the other songs up to
Well,
this
I
point.
want to, before we go to There Must Be More
Okay.
Than Blood, I did want to
Okay.
mention Life Worth Missing because I do
Oh
really
yeah,
like that song
I
too.
do too.
But one of the things that actually like really hit me the first time I listened to it and keeps hitting me every time I listen to it, that is another one of the songs that sort of like Deadlines has a sort of halfway transition where like the song opens up and it gets like another, not like, well, it gets like another main melody on
Yeah, it
top
gets
of,
a second
yeah,
wind,
exactly.
sort of.
And when that part happens, and I don't mean this in a bad way because lately I've actually been going back and been listening to a lot of this artist, but this song reminds me so much of early Coldplay in the sense that
Hmm.
it's very anthemic and has a sort of just like a bright, wide open eyes, sort of like optimistic kind of sound that you can picture just like filling a stadium full of people singing along. And that was the kind of thing that like made me really love Coldplay when I did. Like I absolutely adored Coldplay in middle school and into high school. I actually think it's super strong. I think they get made fun of because they wanted to be Wonderwall or they wanted to be Oasis, they wanted to be Radiohead, they wanted to be U2. I do think that their first few albums, they hold up, and I think people should give them a chance because I do genuinely think that they are very good if you're not going into them with a cynical mindset and trying to pick apart their influences. But Life Worth Missing, it really struck me as reminding me of what I loved about early Coldplay in that it just has an earnest, wide-eyed sort of just like embracing sound to it that's like almost gospely in a sense. And I think the name of the song Hymn as one of the other songs is like there is definitely a sense of not Christianity or religiousness in this album, but there's just a sort of an undercurrent of kind of like this spiritualness and the sort of like the change that comes through like spirituality in this album. And I think in a lot of Car Seat Headrest songs actually there always seems to be a sort of playful deconstruction of like the themes of like spirituality and religion. I think about like Joe gets kicked out of school for using drugs, how he talks about like, and then I saw God and like, Jesus like talked to me while I was high. And so there's like there is a lyrical and musical theme of sort of, I guess maybe Will Toledo like are like negotiating his own like faith or something like that. But I think it comes out a lot in Life Worth Missing in like the actual musical sound of the song.
I do like Life Worth Missing, but oddly enough, I've kind of just forget about it. I almost forgot about it and was ready to move on from to talk about There Must Be More Than Blood. Do like it. I think it's a fun song, but I don't know why. Just for some reason, it hasn't really stuck with me as much of some of the other songs. Even the songs I don't like, I guess, stand out to me more in a sense where they're trying something different. Where Life Worth Missing is a cool, fun song, but maybe just I don't think it doesn't stand out as much as these other songs do because it's not really taking as big of a leap, I think.
I do see that, and it doesn't get any favors from being next to There Must Be More Than Blood in the
Either
track
though.
listing because
Oh
I do
yeah.
think it almost feels like it's like the song that builds into that song, and so it does kind of get overshined by its big brother a little bit.
Yeah, so we've been hyping it up a lot. So I think it's time we get to it. The real culmination, I think, of this album that we both agree is hands down the best track of this album, maybe potentially becoming slowly one of my favorite Car Seat Headrest songs is There Must Be More Than Blood. It's just, wow, is it a song?
It's so unassuming at first because it really does start like for really the first minute to minute and a half to maybe even 2 minutes is just sort of this kind of like, it's hard to describe the sound of the synthesizer, but it's almost kind of this clanky sort of like heavy metallic-y thudding synthesizer with like a sort of reverby guitar solo over it. And at first it's very different from a Car Seat Headrest song. Like when
I
this,
just I'll
yeah.
disagree with saying it's different from a Car Seat Headrest song because it reminds me so much of How to Leave Town, the song The Ending of Dramamine, in a sense kind of calls back to that more, not electronic, but I don't know. It does, the intros to the songs are just very reminiscent, where this feels like a much fuller version of that.
For me, I'm not as familiar with his early stuff. The meat and potatoes of what I've listened to has been from Teens of Style through the Twin Fantasy remake. I really honestly, besides for songs that like you've shown me, I am not too familiar with his earlier kind of lo-fi recordings, but I keep meaning to like go back to them. Especially as I realize that quite a lot of that earlier stuff is a lot of like, it's got a lot of the lot more synthesizer. I feel like it has a lot of like kind of the almost like the toy keyboard sound, like electronic elements in it in like a kind of lo-fi way. But the way that they put it together for this song with just like that intro that sort of gets you like kind of like almost hypnotized into like the rhythm of the song. It's not a song that like kind of like starts really bombastically. It starts very rhythmically and hypnotically, but it just sort of lulls you in and then catches you with like the probably the most clear and just most catchy like lyrical hooks I think on the album, in terms of like
Oh,
especially the chorus
yeah,
is so
because
good.
there's kind of like two separate melodies and choruses that kind of happen in this album. There's sort of the first main verse, and then there's like, I guess it'd be the bridge, when after that middle instrumental section of the song, when Will starts singing again. It's that kind of quicker pace, when you're down for a while, try to get past down, and it just, I don't know, it starts this other melody, and both melodies are just so strong, so catchy, so beautiful, that play into just such a great chorus, and it's such a beautiful song, and the lyrics too are just so it's again, it's that those kind of lyrics that just resonate with me from Car Seat Headrest. They're just so simple and mundane, but they really like tap into these everyday feelings in life. Like one of my favorite lines in the song is just like, "You're grateful for the bus because it's a place to sit down." Just he just has such simple lyrics like that I think really speak volumes.
They're sincere and in a sense insecure, and they share like they exhibit a lot of like anxieties that people can relate to, and a lot of frustrations and things that people can relate to. And especially in this song, and in all the songs of Car Seat Headrest that I love, do it in a way that never comes off as sort of just like the very cheap, very kind of commercial angst that I feel like we get sold through so many other, just like most pop music and so much other media. Like I feel like we're so flooded and inundated with a really insincere, really shallow, surface level kind of like just angst about the world, and like being angsty and edgy and like jaded is like what's in and like what's cool, and it's what every pop star and like TV show and everything just tries to like reel you in with. But like when artists can actually tap into like the actual sense and the actual emotions kind of at the real core of why that sort of emotion is like the zeitgeist, then it really does resonate. And I think Car Seat Headrest does that really well. And it does it really, really well with this song. And I do think that there are instances in this album where he doesn't. Like I think Hollywood and I think Famous are both two songs where it leans closer to that other sort of more shallow kind of angst. But I think I give him the benefit of the doubt, because Car Seat Headrest and Will Toledo and his songwriting have shown me in the past, and continue to show me with this album, that he understands how to tap into that more genuine sense of insecurity and how to put it into song in a way that's moving and beautiful and catchy and fun. I'll forgive him for faltering on a couple songs here and there, because if he delivers There Must Be More Than Blood in the same album that he puts Hollywood, like, of course I'll forgive Hollywood.
Anyone who's listening to this podcast who maybe isn't a Car Seat Headrest fan, if you have no intention of listening to this album, I cannot stress enough how good There Must Be More Than Blood is and how much you should listen to it. It's just such a solid song. And another note
Yeah.
I wanted to mention about it was it's the longest song on the album at 7 minutes and 33 seconds, but it's a pretty quick 7 minutes,
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
And Car Seat Headrest is notorious for making really long songs, and
Beach
it's so
Life and Death.
interesting. Yeah, like 10-minute songs, like 13-minute, 14-minute songs come up all the time. It's interesting to see on this album that 7 minutes is clocking in at the longest song, where in the past could be like, one of the shorter songs on the album. So I think that's, another big change with this album is, not only are we seeing more influence from the band, but we do see Will Toledo maybe trying to make more, not just Will Toledo anymore, but we see Car Seat Headrest trying to make maybe more concise songs rather than kind of the long journeys that they have made in the past. We won't give our final thoughts quite yet, but I think this album is just a great stepping stone for them. Like we've said, they're a young band. This is only the middle of their career, and after putting out, their 3 studio albums are 3 really amazing albums. And this, I wouldn't say it's a falter. It's definitely, it's not my favorite Car Seat Headrest. It's definitely, I would, definitely put it lower in the rankings for the albums, but I think it's a really interesting step for the band, and I'm excited to see where this sound takes them.
I feel the exact same way. I mean, I was feeling anxious about it with the singles that were coming out. It was like I'd feel anxious, and then a single would come out and it would reassure me, and then another single would come out and I'd feel anxious, and then another single would come out and it would reassure me. And it was this weird back and forth where I was really getting worked up about like, oh my god, like, is it going to be more like this song, or is it going to be more like that song? Is it going to be a healthy mix? Like, and I think overall the album is more like There Must Be More Than Blood than it is like songs I don't necessarily care for. And I think that overall the direction and the experimentation with the electronic sounds and electronic instruments plays into the strengths of Car Seat Headrest and of Will Toledo's songwriting more than it does distract from them or take away from like the experience that people might be used to, or take away from an experience that new fans might have that older fans can also share in relating to. Like, I don't think that this is going to be an album that, like, if people first come to Car Seat Headrest at this album, I don't think this is going to be an album that, like, people won't be able to relate. Like, I think maybe there'll be some, like, edgelords who are like, I've been listening to Car Seat Headrest since his first, like, song he recorded on a tape recorder in a porta potty in, like, Leesburg, Virginia. Like, there are always going to be people like that, but they suck. So, like, they can just be ignored. But I don't think this is an album that like will quote unquote divide the fans or anything like that. I don't think there's going to be I mean, I hope there's like an influx of new fans. I always hope that there's more new fans, but I don't think there's going to be an influx of new fans who can't get into or relate or understand or enjoy older Car Seat Headrest music because this album is in some way strangely different or totally like not related. I think that this album is a really good just evolution of old Car Seat Headrest with new elements, new toys to play with, going into a direction that I'm excited to see, how it pans out. Maybe we'll get another album that's more old school. Maybe we'll get maybe we'll get like another like lo-fi album that's like just Will Toledo doing it all himself. Maybe we'll get like an album that is like, a 20-piece band. Like who knows? I think that this shows that they're just a band that's super open and willing to experiment, and I think that's the best thing you can have in a current day band, because why risk being stale and going stagnant when you can excite people by changing? So
I know we have a lot. We've been talking about this album for a while, and we do have other stuff we want to get to in this episode. I did want to read this quote from Will Toledo about the kind of talking about the album in the world of music that I think will be a good way to wrap up this first segment. Will Toledo says, quote, "I think my main hope for the world of music is that it will continue to grow by taking from the past with the consciousness of what still works now. Exciting moments in music always form at a crossroads. A new genre emerges from the pieces of an existing one. An artist strips down a forgotten structure and makes something alien and novel. If there's a new genre emergent in our times, it has not yet been named and identified, but its thread comes from a new way of listening to all types of music, of new methods of creating music at an unprecedented level of affordability and personal freedom, of new audiences rising up through the internet to embrace works that would otherwise be lost, and above all, from the people whose love of music drives them to create it in the best form they possibly can. Hopefully it will remain nameless for some time, so it can be experienced with that same newness and strangeness that accompanies any and all meaningful encounters with music.
Pretty elegant.
And with that, let's take a little break and tell the world about what's going on.
In the next couple of weeks to a month or two, we will be launching our own website. So we're very excited about that.
It's a slow burn.
Yeah. We've been doing a lot of the planning and design stages at the moment, and what we're hoping we will deliver to our fans through that is not just a single place other than YouTube or Pandora or Spotify, or not Pandora or Spotify or whatever, that you can find our episodes, but a place you can find our episodes, a place you can find information about us, a place you can find our playlists, and a place that you could find some, like written just material by us and by other contributors. We're planning on pulling friends into this conversation and getting, whether it's reviews or articles or opinions or just whatever people want to write about, we want to feature it on the website. And so we're going to use that as a platform to sort of put things that don't necessarily fit into these episodes, or just things as they happen that can't really fit into the episodes. We're going to use the website as a platform for that part of the conversation, and hopefully have that conversation with people, collaborating and working with us to make that website feel like a home for more voices than just the two of us.
And if any listeners out there want to send in any articles, any ideas for articles, or want to get in touch with us about the website and want to get involved with any art or anything, we're really open to listeners getting involved with this podcast and sending in your thoughts. So you can find us on Instagram at strange.convo.pod, or you can send us an email at strange.conversations.cast. So that again, our Instagram at strange.convo.pod and email at strange.conversations.cast.
I know it seems like it's been a long time since we started this bracket, but I'm excited to say that as of today, we officially have entered in to the last 4 of the first 16 rounds.
I know it's been a while.
It has been a while. The one a day took it really puts it into perspective. 16 days to get through the first round of matchups. Really puts into perspective how long 2 weeks and 2 days is. But we're almost through the very first round, and I'm excited to announce that it will go by so much faster once we get through it, because it'll just seem, that much more exciting to see the winners of the previous round going up against other winners, to sort of not forget about those artists that have been left behind, those who did not quite make it, who have fans worldwide, who, we know that people love. We've compiled the first 10 of the artists who didn't quite make it through their bracket into a little 10-song playlist that you can find on our Instagram, strange.convo.pod. You can find that in the story. You can also find that in our story highlights, which are accessible on our profile picture. If you look underneath the bio, you should see a little circle that is in the highlights section. If you're not totally familiar with how, the Instagram app works yet. They'll all be there. You can access all of our other playlists from the previous weeks in that location, and you will be able to access all the playlists as we post them in that location. So if you ever feel like you've missed out on the story itself, always check the highlights. We'll be having more of the losers playlists in the future. Probably not this coming weekend because we won't have another 10, but certainly weeks afterwards because we'll be compiling losers as we go along on our way towards the winner.
Yeah, we got lots of ideas, so follow us on Instagram to keep up with all the stuff that we're putting out, because we're really excited about how this podcast has grown, and we want to thank everyone who's been voting in the bracket, who's sent in thoughts about albums, things like that. So thanks everyone for making us have fun doing this, and we hope you enjoy it too.
It really has, and it's been cool to see that like our little playlists have actually got a couple followers. So it's good to know that we're not the only two that are listening to them. They're gonna keep coming as we make them. So just keep the old peepers open. That was a weird way to say that.
All right, with that, let's get back to the show.
Let's do it. All right. So Austin, it is, as of today, the day we are recording, the 5th of May, Cinco de Mayo. It is also another holiday worth celebrating that I feel like not as many people know. But today is actually, I don't know the actual number, but it is Karl Marx's birthday.
Oh.
And to celebrate that, I wanted to put together a little bit similar to one that we did a couple episodes ago that Austin put together for me, that was a Dungeons and Dragons Monsters or metal albums little 5-question this or that. That was quite a lot of fun. Yeah,
episode 3 if you want to check that out.
It was quite a lot of fun to wrap my brain around those possibilities. So I wanted to use the occasion to celebrate Daddy Marx as a way to maybe make a Red or Dead themed episode. And I thought, a lot of contemporary punk bands have quite a lot of leftist and communist and anarchist and socialist rhetoric to their lyrics. So does another very well-known, very meme-worthy leftist scholar by the name of Slavoj Žižek. And so what I wanted to do was see if Austin could tell the difference between punk song lyrics or Slavoj Žižek quotes. And so I compiled 5 different this or that I'm going to read out to Austin, and we're going to see if he knows his slobbery boy Žižek versus some angry punk lyrics. Bonus points if he can tell me the artist or the song that the lyrics come from.
All right, I'm ready.
This is the first quote. This is the first I said that. It's not necessarily a quote. Must everything be bought? From sex to joy to experiment, we no longer enjoy the real.
All right.
I'll let you think.
Okay. All right. Read it one more time to me.
All right. Must everything be bought? From sex to joy to experiment, we no longer enjoy the real.
That's Žižek, isn't it?
Nope.
Really?
That is from the song Lost Illusion by the band Exploded View, who are a sort of post-punk experimental band fronted by the singer Annika, who is got an amazing sort of Nico-esque voice, and I highly recommend that band. They are very...
I could see the nose being itched, the shirt being pulled.
Yeah.
You don't enjoy the real?
All right. Here's number 2. Right. So I'm gonna read the selection, and then you're gonna tell me if it's Žižek or a punk band. What if the way we perceive a problem is already part of the problem?
All right. One more time.
What if the way we perceive a problem is already part of the problem?
What if we're already part of the problem? I'll go Žižek again.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yes,
that is the boy, Žižek. I believe that was from his I actually don't know. I didn't write it down where it was from, so I'm not gonna pretend that I do. Um, that I could totally see that. I picked that because it sounds. I picked all the quotes because I figured they could go either way. They were,
The first
they
one
were
really got me. The first one
yeah.
really.
Oh, I think there'll be some more that get you.
All right,
I
keep them
hope.
coming.
I
Keep them
hope.
coming.
All right, number 3. Love feels like a great misfortune, a monstrous parasite.
That's more of a punk lyric, because I don't think Zizek's is much of a romantic as that.
That's Zizek.
Come on, really?
He's got a heart. He's got a soft spot.
Wow. I guess I haven't seen his romantic side as much. Can I hear that one more time?
He says, "Love feels like a great misfortune, a monstrous parasite."
Wow.
I was gonna pick.
Someone hurt him. Someone hurt him real bad.
Oh, well, oh my God. There was another quote that I was almost gonna pick, but I was like, nah, it's a little like weird. But he said, it was something along the lines of, he says, "Sex without love is just masturbation."
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. It's like, oh boy, college is in trouble.
All right, how many more we got here?
Number 4. We got 2 more. 2 more.
Right.
So far, you are 1 for 3. Let's see if you can't pick up more than 50% here.
Oh, I hope so.
Let's see if you can pass. This is you're trying to get a D. You're trying to get a D here. Either a D or a failing grade. That's what we're working for. Or you could just ace it. You could get these next 2. Oh, if you get the next 2, you'll still have a 3 out of 5, which I think is what is that, a 60%?
I'll win in my heart, and that's what counts in the end.
That's what counts. That's what counts.
All right.
Something. Number 4. The mask of masculinity is a mask that's wearing.
Oh, that's Idols. That's Idols. I know that.
Yeah.
That's
ding,
Idols.
ding, ding. Do you know
got
the song?
that one? Yeah, that's Oh man, it's been a while since I've listened to Idols.
I'm a real boy, and I cry.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of it.
It is called Samaritans.
Samaritans. I don't think I would have got there on that one, but yeah.
That's the one that goes.
I
Sit
can
down, and up.
Got some balls, he said. Got some balls.
The music video for that is actually pretty cool. It's all like, it's compiled old footage of like middle school and high school age boys being like trained for the military during like the Cold War and like World War II, and how they're all like, they're being like pushed down and like, like basically abused. And then it's like, it splices that with like footage of like soldiers in war zones committing like atrocities and like blowing up buildings and stuff. And because the song itself is about how like, masculinity is toxic, and it's showing like, you raise men to be toxic males and you get toxic males at the other end. And the music video is a cool sort of like visualization of that. Number 5, the last one.
All right,
you are
here we go.
2 for 4 at the moment. Let's see if you can get above that 50%. Final quote. I know what we got to do. We got to turn Elvis Presley into Che Guevara. Elvis Presley or Madonna into Che Guevara.
Huh. I think that's Zizek.
And
Oh.
that is from the song "And Breeding" by Priests, who R.I.P. Priests. They are a local DC-based.
Did they break up?
They went on an indefinite hiatus.
Oh.
I'm never optimistic with indefinite hiatuses.
Yeah. I've never listened to Priest a ton, really.
And dude, the Red EP, I always forget what it's called, but it's like red with like block text on the front, is phenomenal. And then the album Nothing Feels Natural, which is like the Pink album with their faces on it. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah. It's real sort of like if Life Without Buildings met like Sonic. Well, it's like if Life Without Buildings met some of like Sonic Youth's more like aggressive, like Kim Gordon led songs.
I'll give it a listen. You got a name for that bit there, Dylan?
That was Zizek or Punk.
It got a theme song for it?
It's just a lot of sniffling and lisp sound.
Strange conversations.
couple hot singles popping up unexpectedly. I didn't think there were going to be many I wanted to talk about, but I do have two I wanted to mention. The one being Fontaines DC, an Irish-based post-punk band with their new song, also accompanying the announcement for a new album, which will be out July 3rd. The single's name, I did not write down in front of me, so do you have it in front of you?
I will consult the internet. Beep boop bop boop bop. It is called a Hero's Death.
A Hero's Death.
That's also the name of the album that will be coming out.
Yeah, and I've only gotten to listen to it once with it has a music video that accompanies it, and it has the actor who plays Littlefinger in Game of Thrones. He's also in Peaky Blinders. Plays this like talk show TV host who's kind of like having a mental breakdown right before going on to the show. It's a really cool music video. He's like has a puppet co-host who everyone likes more than him, and it makes him angry. And it's a cool music video. As I've said, I've been in pursuit of trying to watch more music videos, so that's definitely one to check out. Cool single too. Fontaines DC have a special place in my heart because when I was studying abroad, I got to see them play a free show at a bar in Galway, Ireland, before anyone was really talking about them. They had a couple singles out. It was before their album was released, so I really have got to watch these guys grow a little bit, which is really cool. And I could say I got to see them at a free show. It was so much fun, and I knew like from the moment I saw them, I was like, wow, these guys are really something special. They got a really cool post-punk sound.
Yeah, it's like post-punk, but it also has like this really identifiable like Irish folk music influence, like heavy. I bought the album when it came out on vinyl, and I remember there's a song on it called and I'm totally blanking, but it's this first song on side A, and it's big? Like
I'm gonna be big.
Yeah, it might be. It's like acoustic with like it's basically like a folk punk song, and I usually am not Boys in a Better Land, because I do know that one. I do love that one. That one and the Darklands version of that one that has like the actual acoustic guitar in it is so good. But I'm blanking on the name of the song. Let me see. Actually, it might be Roy's tune, because I think Hurricane Laughter is the last on side A, and then I think Roy's tune might be the first on side B.
That is one of the things that makes them stand out the most, is they do have that Irish folk to them that sets them apart from a lot of post-punk, because I think Irish culture is so unique. What European culture is even sadder in Europe.
It gels well. It gels well with punk, because I feel like Irish culture has internalized a lot of a sense of rebellion.
Yeah, I think
just going back to
it's anti-authoritarian at heart, I think. Yeah, resisting British rule. They're a really great band. Super excited for this next album. Their first one was great, so I'm excited to see where these Irish boys go.
My only single that I'm real hyped about at the current moment is also Across the Pond. But this time a couple of bands. Well, one band from the colonizing country, from the UK. But a band that also is a post-punk band that I'm very excited about. They're called Dits. They are kind of unique in the fact that they've been around for a while, but haven't released a full-length album yet. They have about, I want to say, 7 or so songs released, all of which fall into either EPs or singles, all spread across between 2016 to now. But they're all very good. If you like Idols, if you like Fontaines DC, if you like Preoccupations or Proto Martyr, or any of the sort of contemporary post-punk bands, Priests, you would love Dits. They have a very sort of noise rock meets post-punk sort of sound. And this most recent song is called Poet, and it's really cool. Fits in with Dits' sound, and I think that it's got me excited. It's got me, hoping that maybe an album will come out at some point.
It's their song for the year, and they're done.
Yeah. No, literally, like that basically is kind of what they do. I got all excited for this song. It's not even the same artist. It's a different band that is called Ditz and spells their name the same way. Either that or Spotify is being weird and they're filing as two separate artists. I'll be honest, I haven't listened to the song yet, so I don't know. I should listen to it, and if it sounds like Ditz, it's probably Ditz, but if it sounds totally different, might not be them.
I got one other single to shout out real quick. I've been listening to a lot of Haim recently, and they put out a song, I Know Alone, accompanied with a music video of the Haim sisters dancing on a basketball court. It's a really cool dance, cool video, cool song. It's a perfect quarantine song. I Know Alone. Their album's coming out sometime this summer after being delayed. I've only just been getting into Haim, but they're kind of a modern Dixie Chicks in a way. I don't know if you like that or not, but I do enjoy. No, I wouldn't call myself a country fan. I really don't listen to a lot of country, but I do enjoy a kind of twang in some music, and I think Haim has that right amount of kind of country twang to them.
Yeah, I'm honestly not familiar with Haim's music, but listened to a lot of Dixie Chicks growing up. My mom loved the Dixie Chicks.
Yeah, same. That's how I.
Yeah, my mom was one of those people that like I think got into the Dixie Chicks even more after like they told Bush to like fuck off, because my mom was like, my mom's like Democrat and she like hated Bush, and so it was like, as country music fans abandoned the Dixie Chicks because they're like the only country musicians to like oppose the war in Iraq. My mom was one of the masses of white liberal women who are like, we love the Dixie Chicks, and so listen to a lot of Dixie Chicks growing up.
Yeah. I think I'm in the same boat. But yeah, definitely check out Haim. I think as far as a lot of indie pop kind of goes these days, they are a really solid outfit, and it's so cool that they're three sisters, and you can just see how much fun that they have in the music writing process, and it just makes me wish my siblings and I branded ourselves a little bit better and created a indie rock outfit.
Yeah, I need to like train my siblings better. They're all younger than me, so I feel like it's really my fault that we're not a super group.
Strange conversations.
Long ep, but I think let's bring it back here to the album of the ep, and that is Car Seat Headrest's Making a Door Less Open. Dylan, you gonna listen to this one again?
I'm definitely going to listen to There Must Be More Than Blood again. And I think that there'll be songs on the album that I listen to like sporadically, but it's not like other Car Seat Headrest albums where if I hear one song, I suddenly want to jump into the whole album, which is, it's pros and cons. Like, I'll definitely be listening to songs from this album again in the future, but not in the same way that I have listened to Car Seat Headrest in the past, which is just, as their sound changes, maybe the way I listen to them changes too.
I think this album is a really great evolution for the band, and it's a space that has really allowed them to play around with a lot of different sounds that makes me excited for where they're going to go. As for me listening to it again, I definitely, I will still listen to it the next couple days because, it's still only been out for 4 days, and I'm still really just familiarizing myself with what this album has to offer. But I don't see myself listening to this album as religiously as I listen to a lot of Car Seat Headrest's other works. Mm-hmm. If anyone listening wants to dive into Car Seat Headrest, I think that the Twin Fantasy remake is really a great place, or Teens of Denial, Teens of Style. Those 3 albums are really each amazing works that you should check out if you don't know Car Seat Headrest. This album, I will listen to a couple select songs. There Must Be More Than Blood, hands down, will be one I listen to a lot. Yeah, I don't see myself. The vinyl, I'll pop on, I think, every once in a while, because I do think it flows a little bit better, but I'm not really gonna be itching to get that full top to bottom experience with this one as I have with Car Seat in the past.
Yeah, and I think I don't really know exactly how I feel about that yet. I think, next week when we do our next album, I'll probably have more thoughts on because I do I do, in a sense, I do get upset when I think about the fact that like the idea of making music for an album is getting less and less viable. The artists who do make albums as complete sort of thematic works like they should be protected. But I also understand that like that's also sort of like, you know, like a snobby like dad rock idea to like hold on to. I just haven't reconciled in my own opinions which side of that debate I actually fall on. I could argue either side because I believe in nothing and nothing is sacred and I held no opinions of my own. Yeah, so like I don't fully know what this album will mean to me like yet. It's an album that I can tell will be important to Car Seat Headrest fans in the future, and I think it will either be a very important development or it will be a very important dividing point, maybe not in a bad way, but maybe just in a way in which like there'll be old Car Seat Headrest fans and there'll be new Car Seat Headrest fans.
Yeah, I think the Twin Fantasy remaster kind of marks the end of an era for Will Toledo, where he was like, this is me ending this solo work that I have been doing for such a long time, this kind of diary, this personal reflection. This is the kind of culmination of that. Really, that was the album, I think, that encapsulates what Car Seat Headrest is. And I think it maybe was a statement that he is done with that first sort of rendition of what Car Seat Headrest was in his bedroom or in the backseat of his car, wherever he was recording. And it's now this full band, and we're going to be experiencing sounds more like this. So I think you're right. It is a branching off point for Car Seat Headrest, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
And I really hope he ditches that mask. But that's the whole. So. We managed to go the whole episode without talking about it. I want to leave it. I want to leave it at that. I don't want to get into it.
All right, that has been another strange conversation featuring your hosts, myself, Austin Kenny,
and Dylan Bennett.
And that was a weird way to phrase it because I don't know where to go from there.
Yeah, it was a weird way to end.
Now we're talking about ourselves we were in the third person for a minute there, and we're back.
Dylan are in the third person. I am our Dylan is me.
We broke. Show over. Thanks, bye.
Bang, bang, bang.